I didn't realize how loud laughter could be until it was the last thing I heard. 1 second the truck was there. The next it wasn't. Gravel snapped under spinning tires. Dust flew up into the air, sharp and blinding. I stood frozen for half a heartbeat, my brain refusing to accept what my eyes were seeing. Then instinct kicked in. "Ryan!" I screamed. I ran after the truck like an idiot, arms waving, voice cracking in the heat. Like love alone could make a vehicle stop. Like shouting his name enough times would magically turn this into a misunderstanding. Didn't. His brothers leaned out of the windows, phones raised, laughing, filming. One of them yelled something I couldn't fully hear, but I caught the tone. Mocking, playful, cruel. The truck disappeared around the bend. And the silence hit. Not peaceful silence. The kind that presses into your chest. Behind me sat the gas station. If you can even call it that. One pump. One flickering light. A bathroom that looked like it hadn't been cleaned in years. A vending machine humming quietly. Stocked with snacks nobody wanted. Middle of nowhere. I looked down at my phone. Black screen. No charger. No wallet. Nothing. I'd left everything in the truck because Ryan had smiled at me and said, "Can you grab me an energy drink? I'm exhausted." So I went inside. That's all it took. 5 minutes passed. Then 10. Then 20. I kept staring down the road, waiting for the truck to reappear. Waiting for laughter to turn into guilt. Waiting for headlights. I told myself it was a prank. Ryan loved jokes, pushing limits, making people uncomfortable and then acting shocked when they didn't laugh. But this felt different. My hands started shaking. My mouth was dry. I sat on the curb, stood up again, paced in circles, pretending I wasn't scared. Pretending this wasn't happening. Then my phone buzzed. One last time before dying completely. Message. "Don't freak out. Just a joke. We'll be back." I stared at the screen. No apology. No explanation. Just amusement. Something inside me didn't break. It went quiet. Standing there in the heat, dust clinging to my legs, I realized this wasn't funny. Not even close. This wasn't a prank. This was a choice. And for the first time, instead of waiting for him to come back, I wondered what would happen if I didn't. I wish I could tell you I stood up right away. That I walked off the moment the truck disappeared. I didn't. Waited. Because that's what I'd always done. Wait for apologies, wait for laughter to soften, wait for things to go back to normal. I kept telling myself he'd turn around any second. That this was the kind of stupid joke that went too far and ended with a sheepish smile. 5 minutes passed. Then 20. The sun felt heavier. The air stopped moving. I walked to the edge of the road and shaded my eyes, scanning the horizon like I was looking for rescue. Nothing. Just heat shimmering off the asphalt and the sound of my own breathing. I went back inside the station and asked the clerk if there was a phone charger. He barely looked up. Nope. I asked if there was a payphone. He laughed. Actually laughed. Not in years. I stepped back outside and sat on the curb again, my knees pulled up to my chest. I told myself I wasn't scared. That this was embarrassing, sure, but not dangerous. I told myself Ryan wouldn't actually leave me. But my body knew better. My hands wouldn't stop shaking. My stomach churned like it was trying to warn me about something my brain didn't want to hear yet. I stood up, paced, sat back down. Over and over. Like movement alone could undo what had already happened. An hour passed. I watched a trucker fill up and leave without looking at me. Car slowed, then kept going. Every sound made my heart jump, then sink again. I replayed the message in my head. Don't freak out. Just a joke. The words started to feel ugly. Like they were cutting into something old. Because this wasn't the first time I'd been laughed at. Just the first time I'd been abandoned in public for it. I thought about every dinner where I'd smiled through comments that stung. Every time Ryan told me I needed to relax. Or stop taking things so personally. Every time his brothers crossed a line and I was expected to laugh along so I wouldn't ruin the mood. I realized something sitting there on that curb. This wasn't new behavior. This was just the first time they didn't come back fast enough for me to pretend it was fine. A woman pulled into the station with a dented minivan. 2 kids asleep in the back. She watched me for a moment, really watched me before I even spoke. "Are you okay?" she asked. I opened my mouth to lie. And instead I said, "No." She nodded like that answer made sense. "Where are you headed?" I hadn't thought that far yet. "North," I said finally. "Anywhere." She didn't ask why. She didn't ask questions that would make me explain myself. She just opened the passenger door. "I can take you part of the way." As I got into her car, I looked down the road one last time. Half of me still expected to see the truck racing back, dust flying, Ryan jumping out with a grin and an excuse. Never came. And for the first time I didn't chase it. The ride north was quiet. Not awkward quiet. The kind that understands you don't have words yet. The woman driving kept both hands on the wheel and didn't push conversation. Her kids slept in the back, mouths open, cartoon stickers peeling off the windows. Every few miles, she glanced at me like she was checking I hadn't vanished. I stared out the window and watched the world change. Dry land turning green. Billboards fading into trees. Each mile felt like I was shedding a layer of something heavy I'd been carrying for years. She dropped me off at a bus station just as the sun was starting to sink. Before I could thank her properly, she pressed a phone charger and a $10 bill into my hand. "Just in case," she said. I don't even remember her name. But I remember her kindness. I remember the way she looked at me like I mattered. My phone flickered back to life long enough for one message. "And Clara, can I come stay with you for a while? I don't know where else to go." The reply came almost instantly. "Always." That one word cracked something open in my chest. The bus ride took all night. I didn't sleep. I watched streetlights blur into streaks and thought about calling Ryan. Not to beg. Not to explain. Just to say something final. But then I pictured his brothers in the background. Laughing. Calling me dramatic. Saying I couldn't take a joke. So I didn't call. And neither did he. When the bus finally pulled in, the air smelled different. Like salt. Like trees after rain. Aunt Clara was waiting in an old blue pickup, arms crossed, eyes scanning the platform until they found me. She didn't ask what happened. She just hugged me and said, "Let's get you home." Her house sat on a quiet street where nothing seemed in a hurry. Chipped fences. Flower beds that looked like they'd been there forever. Inside it smelled like lemon cleaner and fresh bread. Every corner felt safe. That night I took the longest shower of my life. I scrubbed until the dust ran down the drain, until my hands went red. When I finally looked in the mirror, wrapped in a towel, I barely recognized the woman staring back. "You're not going back," I whispered to her. "Not this time." I slept for 2 days straight. When I woke up, Aunt Clara was sitting at the kitchen table like no time had passed. She slid a plate of eggs and toast in front of me, then an envelope. Inside was cash. And a folded piece of paper with a name written on it. "Nora Hale. My friend at the diner needs help," she said softly. "They don't ask questions. Just tell them that's your name." Hale was my mother's maiden name. I hadn't said it in years. Saying it now felt like trying on a coat I'd forgotten I owned. Fit. I started work that week. Dicky menus. Burnt coffee. Early mornings. But for the first time in years, my life felt like it belonged to me. At night, I'd sit on the porch with Aunt Clara, listening to crickets and breathing in quiet. I didn't know it yet, but that borrowed name wasn't hiding me. It was rebuilding me. And then, one slow afternoon at the diner, the bell over the door rang. And everything changed again. I knew something was wrong the moment the bell over the diner door rang. It didn't sound normal. Too sharp. Too sudden. Like it was warning me. I was refilling napkin holders, half listening to the radio humming behind the counter, when the door flew open and a man stumbled inside. Broad shoulders. Moving like every step hurt. For half a second my brain tried to convince me it was another joke. That's what living with Ryan had taught me. Assume humiliation before danger. Then I saw the blood. It soaked through his shirt, dark and spreading, dripping onto the faded tile like something alive. His face was pale, eyes wide. Not playful, not exaggerated. Real. "Help," he said. And then he collapsed. Everything went quiet. Not outside, inside me. Time slowed the way it does when your body decides before your mind gets a vote. I dropped to my knees beside him, hands already pressing against the wound, yelling for towels. Mrs. Jenkins, the owner, was on the phone with 911 before I even asked. "Stay with me," I told him, my voice steadier than I felt. "Don't close your eyes. You hear me?" He nodded, teeth clenched. His hand grabbed my wrist like it was the only solid thing left in the world. "You're gonna be okay," I whispered. "Just hold on." The ambulance arrived fast. Too fast. Like this wasn't the first time someone had bled out on that floor. As they lifted him onto the stretcher, his grip tightened once more. "Thank you," he rasped. That was all. 4 days after, I couldn't stop replaying it. The sound his body made when it hit the ground. The weight of his hand on mine. The way fear looks when it isn't laughing. I told myself that was the end of it. It wasn't. 3 days later, the bell rang again. Same door. Same sound. He walked in slower this time. Bruised. It. Still standing. He slid into a booth by the window like he belonged there and ordered coffee like nothing had happened. When I brought it over, our eyes met. "You saved my life," he said quietly. His name was Lucas. He didn't ask for my story. He didn't pry. He didn't flirt or joke or make light of anything. He just noticed. Listen. When he spoke, it was measured. Careful. Like words were something he'd learned to ration. He came back every few days after that. Always the same booth. Sometimes reading. Sometimes staring out at the water like he was waiting for something to surface. There was something familiar about him. Not comforting. Recognizable. The look of someone who had run because staying would have destroyed him. And the longer he sat there, sipping his coffee in silence, the more I realized something unsettling. I wasn't the only one hiding under a borrowed name. And whatever Lucas was running from, it hadn't stopped chasing him. The first time I felt afraid again, it wasn't because of Ryan. It was because of silence. I came home late that afternoon, the sky already bruised with gray, the kind that presses down on your shoulders. Aunt Clara's car wasn't in the driveway. That wasn't unusual. What was unusual was the front door. It was open. Not wide. Just enough. My body stopped before my mind did. That old instinct, the one I thought I'd shed, snapped awake. I stepped inside slowly, every sound suddenly too loud. The house looked normal at first. Couch untouched. Pictures straight. No broken glass. Then I saw the kitchen drawer. The one Aunt Clara kept her spare cash in. It was open. Nothing was missing. At least nothing I could see. But the air felt wrong. Like someone had stood there too long. Like the house had been watched. I backed out and called Lucas without thinking. He didn't ask questions. Didn't tell me I was overreacting. He just said, "I'm on my way." He was there in minutes. Checked every lock. Walked the property. Looked at the road like he was measuring distance, not scenery. "This isn't random," he muttered. "What do you mean?" I asked. He didn't answer right away. After that night, things changed quietly. New locks. A small camera above the porch. Flashlight by the door. Lucas didn't make a big deal of it. He never does. But I could tell. Something had rattled him more than he wanted to admit. At night I started sleeping with the lamp on. And Clara noticed. She always does. One evening while folding laundry she said, almost casually, "Sometimes people don't chase you because they miss you." I looked up. "They chase you," she continued, "because they lost control." The words settled heavy in my chest. I hadn't thought about Ryan in a long time. Not really. He existed somewhere far away in my mind like an old scar you stop checking. But that night, lying awake, I wondered what would happen if he realized I wasn't waiting anymore. And then, like the universe heard the thought. 5 years after the gas station. 5 years of silence. There was a knock at the door. I opened it, and the past was standing on my porch. Ryan looked older, thinner. His confidence cracked at the edges. He lifted his hands slowly, like he didn't want to scare me. "Nora," he said. Hearing my name in his mouth made my stomach turn. Before I could move, Lucas stepped up beside me. Quiet. Solid. Between us. Ryan blinked, confused. "I'm her husband," he said. The word hit like a slap. Husband. As if time hadn't passed. As if abandonment hadn't happened. As if laughter hadn't echoed while I stood stranded in the heat. I stepped forward, my voice calm. "No," I said. "You're not." And that's when I realized something terrifying. He hadn't found me by accident. He had come for a reason. He didn't apologize right away. That's how I knew this wasn't about me. Ryan stood on the porch, shifting his weight like a man waiting for permission to exist in a space he'd already violated. His eyes kept darting past me, past Lucas, like he was searching for something familiar. Control. Recognition. Ownership. "I've been trying to find you," he finally said. Lucas didn't move. Didn't speak. He didn't need to. His presence alone made it clear. This wasn't the same woman Ryan had left laughing at a gas station. "Why now?" he asked. Ryan swallowed. Because everything blew up. That's when he told me. Not the whole story. Just the parts that justified him. His brothers. Podcast. Stories turned into jokes. Jokes turned into clips. And one day the gas station came up. My gas station. The one they thought was hilarious. The one they told like a punchline. Millions of views. People were furious. Sponsors pulled out. Lawsuits started stacking up. Suddenly, the thing they'd laughed about wasn't funny anymore. "I didn't even know they were going to talk about it," Ryan said quickly. When I saw the video, something snapped in me. I stared at him. "Did it?" I asked quietly. He flinched. "I left them," he continued. "I've been trying to fix my life. I've been looking for you for over a year. A year. 5 years after he'd left me stranded, afraid, invisible. 5 years of silence. And now he wanted credit for regret. "You didn't come back," I said. "Not that day. Not the next. Not ever." He looked genuinely confused. "I thought you were just angry. I thought you'd cool off." That was the moment I knew. He hadn't come to understand. He'd come to be forgiven. "I wasn't waiting," I said. "I was leaving." Ryan's shoulders sagged like the weight was finally reaching him. "I just needed you to hear me out." "I've heard enough," I replied. The door opened behind us. Lucas stepped out, calm and steady, placing himself beside me without touching me, like he understood exactly how much space I needed to stand on my own. Ryan looked at him. "Who is he?" I didn't hesitate. "My fiancé." The word landed heavy. Ryan's jaw tightened. He nodded slowly, like he was finally realizing the ground had shifted beneath him. "You didn't lose me because of one prank," I said. "You lost me because you never saw me." He opened his mouth, closed it, then nodded again. "I guess I deserved that." "You did." He turned to leave, then stopped. "For what it's worth. I'm glad you're okay." I watched him disappear down the path without following. I didn't feel shaken. I didn't feel victorious. Felt done. But later that night, sitting on the porch with a mug growing cold in my hands, a thought crept in. Ryan hadn't come back for closure. He'd come back because the world was watching. And if the world had finally noticed the gas station story, that meant something else was coming. The courthouse smelled like cold air and old paper. I didn't expect that to be the thing that stuck with me, but it did. That sterile, emotionless smell. Like the building itself had heard too many stories to care anymore. I stood in the hallway gripping Lucas's hand, my pulse steady in a way that surprised me. Cameras whispered at the far end of the corridor. Not shouting yet. Just waiting. Hungry. 5 years ago, I stood on the side of a road with dust in my shoes and nothing in my pockets. Now I was here, wearing a navy blazer, my spine straight, my voice ready. Inside the courtroom, Ryan's brothers sat at the defense table. They looked smaller than I remembered. Not physically, just stripped of their bravado. No smirks, no phones, no audience to perform for. Ryan sat behind them, staring at his hands like they belonged to someone else. When I walked in, he looked up. For a moment I thought he might stand, say something, apologize again. But then he saw Lucas beside me, quiet, steady, fully present, and whatever thought he'd had died in his throat. I took the witness stand. Not for revenge. For clarity. The attorney asked me to describe the gas station incident. The words came out calmly. Almost too calmly. I told them about the heat, the silence, the waiting, the message that treated my fear like a punchline. But then I said the part people don't see. I told them what happens after the video ends. The way your body flinches weeks later when a phone vibrates. The way trust erodes quietly. The moment you realize staying means slowly disappearing. The room went silent. Even the judge leaned forward. Ryan's brothers wouldn't meet my eyes. One of them shifted like he wanted to vanish into the floor. Ryan looked like he already had. When it was over, I stepped down from the stand and walked straight out into the sunlight. Cameras rushed forward, voices overlapping, questions firing like bullets. I ignored all of it. Behind me I heard footsteps. Nora! Turned. Ryan stood there, smaller somehow. S'pose. I didn't think it would go this far, he said quietly. I looked at him for a long moment. You thought I'd still be waiting, I replied. His face fell. I didn't leave you because of a prank, I said. I left because that prank showed me the truth. He swallowed hard. Do you hate me? Thought about it. No, I said honestly. I just don't belong to you anymore. I turned away and walked down the courthouse steps with Lucas's hand in mine. The noise faded behind us. The sun felt warm on my face. For the first time I didn't feel like I was running. But that night, lying awake, I realized something unsettling. Justice had spoken. But healing was still waiting for its final word. He came back when I least expected it. Not with cameras. Not with lawyers. Not with noise. Just a knock. Careful. Like he was afraid the sound itself might push me further away. I was on the back porch when I heard it. The late afternoon sun low in the sky. Shadows stretching long across the floorboards. Lucas was inside fixing a loose hinge, humming under his breath. Life normal for once. The knock came again. When I opened the door, Ryan stood there alone. No jacket. No confidence. No speech prepared this time. I'm not here to argue, he said quickly. I need to talk. Please. Something about his voice told me this wasn't about forgiveness anymore. It was about release. I stepped outside and closed the door behind me. The air smelled like rain and salt. He stared at the ground for a long moment before speaking. I didn't know you were planning to leave, he said. I swear I didn't. I wasn't, I replied. Not that day. He looked up confused. But when you left me there, I continued, I realized I'd been preparing for it for years. I told him parts of the truth. Not everything. Not the nights I cried into Clara's sweaters. Not the borrowed name. Not the fear that still crept in sometimes. Just the pieces that mattered. How I waited. How I stopped waiting. How I chose myself when no one else did. He wiped his face with the back of his hand. I thought you were just being dramatic. That's the thing, I said softly. You always thought that. Silence stretched between us. What happened to Clara? He asked. She passed last year, I replied. His face crumpled. I'm sorry. She saved me, I said. Without asking for anything. Another pause. I saw the way he looks at you, Ryan said quietly. He's not just your fiancé. No, I agreed. He's the one who stayed. The door creaked behind me. Lucas stepped onto the porch, not invading, not interrupting, just present. Exactly as he always was. Ryan glanced at him, then back at me. You're lucky, he said. I know, I replied. So am I. He reached into his pocket and pulled out a folded photograph. Years ago. Smiling. Hopeful. People we no longer were. He held it out. I didn't take it. I'm not her anymore, I said. And you're not the man she was waiting for. Ryan nodded slowly. No argument. No anger. Just understanding finally arriving too late. As he walked away down the path, shoulders slumped, something inside me loosened. But as the door closed behind me and Lucas took my hand, I realized this wasn't the end. Because some endings don't happen on porches. They happen where truth is recorded. And the final chapter was still waiting. 5 years ago, I stood alone at a gas station with dust on my shoes, no money in my pocket, and no one coming back for me. I didn't know then that moment would become the line between who I was and who I'd be forced to become. Now, I stand in a courthouse hallway, wearing a navy blazer that fits just right, my fingers intertwined with Lucas's. Reporters whisper at the far end of the corridor, cameras already lifted, hungry for reactions I no longer owe anyone. I thought I'd feel fear walking back into a place like this. Instead, I felt calm. Inside the courtroom, the air was heavy. Ryan's brothers sat stiff in their chairs, the confidence that once fueled their jokes completely gone. No smirks, no laughter, no phones recording. Just two men finally confronted with the damage they'd treated like entertainment. This time it wasn't funny. Their latest prank had crossed a line that couldn't be laughed away. A young woman, hidden cameras, public humiliation, panic so severe it sent her into a seizure. She nearly died. That was the end of their platform. The internet turned on them. Sponsors disappeared. Lawsuits followed. And Ryan, caught between them and the truth, looked smaller than I'd ever seen him. When I took the stand, it wasn't anger that carried me. It was clarity. I told the court about the gas station, yes, but more importantly, I told them what comes after the moment people laugh at online. The nightmares, the distrust, the quiet decision to leave everything behind because staying would mean slowly disappearing. The room was silent when I finished. Outside, the sunlight felt warm. Real. I walked past the reporters without answering a single question. Ryan followed me out. I don't know what I thought would happen, he said. I do, I replied. You thought I'd still be waiting. He didn't deny it. You didn't come back, I said. Not that day. Not ever. And what you regret isn't what happened to me. It's what you lost. He asked if I still hated him. I shook my head. I don't hate you. I just don't belong to you anymore. Then I turned away. Lucas met me halfway down the steps, slipping his hand into mine like it had always belonged there. The noise faded behind us. The wind brushed through my hair. I wasn't hiding anymore. I wasn't explaining myself. I wasn't waiting. Here's what I learned. Love doesn't leave you stranded and call it a joke. Silence is still a choice. And walking away isn't weakness. It's self-respect in motion. 5 years ago, I was the woman left behind on the side of a road. Today, I'm the woman who walked forward. Thank you for listening. If this story resonated with you, don't forget to subscribe. And if you've lived through something similar, share your story in the comments. Your voice matters more than you know.